2's Michael Wooten takes a look back at the terror in the community and talks with an author who is now working on a new book about this compelling case.
It was a cold and rainy night, September 22nd, 1980. A black 14-year-old was sitting in a car in a supermarket parking lot in Buffalo. Around 10 o'clock, a man walked up, put a gun to the teen's head, and pulled the trigger. Glenn Dunn would be the first of many victims of the .22 caliber killer. Over the next 36 hours, 3 more black men were shot and killed. 23-year-old Harold Green was eating lunch in his car in Cheektowaga, shot in his temple. Emmanuel Thomas was crossing Ferry and Zenner Streets in Buffalo when he was hit by a single bullet. And 43-year-old Joseph McCoy was walking down a street in Niagara Falls when he was targeted.
The community was terrified.
Fear consumed Western New York, especially African-American men.
So I'm afraid.
The following Monday, confirmation the same weapon was used in all 4 shootings.
Very quickly, the police connected that it was the same shooter. It all came from the same .22 caliber weapon.
2 days later, the FBI joined dozens of local detectives trying to catch this serial killer.
This is unprecedented in the area that so many police departments are working together.
Just 2 weeks later, it got worse. 2 black cab drivers from Buffalo were found beaten to death, their hearts cut out. Many suspected the .22 caliber killer had struck again, but without his signature weapon.
The fear was overwhelming in the community.
6 victims, no suspects, the region paralyzed by fear. But the terror stopped until December, when the bloodshed shifted to New York City. There, 6 men, 5 black and 1 Hispanic, all stabbed over a 12-hour period. We would later find out the so-called Midtown slasher was the same man responsible for the Western New York shootings. And he wasn't done. In a 4-day period around the new year, 5 more stabbings in Buffalo and Rochester, a single serial killer suspected of it all.
I've actually been researching this case for over a year.
Catherine Pellinero was a child living in Western New York during the killing spree. She can't remember much, but the author of this New York Times bestseller about the murder of Kitty Genovese decided to tackle another real-life crime drama with a focus on the man behind the murders.
This is the first time I've ever seen film.
Catherine was amazed at the lucky break it took to catch the killer.
The latest lead is considered as good as any that Lovett have had in the probe.
The lead came from Fort Benning, Georgia. An Army private had attacked a black soldier, and later, while in a psychiatric unit, told nurses he was involved with murders in Buffalo. When he was finally brought back to Western New York, authorities covered his face to avoid tainting witness identifications.
They didn't want people identifying him from television.
He was ID'd as Joseph Christopher. For the black community, a huge sigh of relief, ending worries of a possible race war.
Relieves some of the pressure in this community, some of the tension.
People who knew the suspect couldn't believe he was responsible.
He's liked by many of the neighbors.
He helped elderly people.
Is it really true?
Catherine says there was nothing in Christopher's upbringing to suggest he could be behind the racist attacks.
If you really look into his background, he had very close friends who were black, who, when they started investigating him, said, "Oh, you've got the wrong guy."
Christopher was initially charged with 3 counts of murder. He wore a bulletproof vest to court to protect his own life. Pretrial hearings centered on his sanity. It turns out he had tried to check himself into the Buffalo Psychiatric Center in September 1980, days before the first killings. He was denied. As he entered the military, his mental health deteriorated even more.
He had a psychotic break while he was there.
At sometimes he is very violent and other times very despondent.
Christopher would eventually be found competent to stand trial, and in 1982, a judge found him guilty. An appeals court overturned that, but Christopher was convicted on charges in New York City and retried in Buffalo. He got a life sentence and died in prison of a rare form of male breast cancer at age 37.
He just wasn't who you would think would commit those kind of crimes.
Catherine says her research proves the .22 caliber killer had severe mental illness.
Was he sane enough to have gone through this trial?
No, he was not competent.
The title of her book will be Absolute Madness, to describe the chaos in the community during the crime spree, as well as the mental state of Joseph Christopher.
The way we handle the mentally ill, it's not what it should be. I wish I could say it wouldn't happen today, but I'm not so sure about that, which I think is another important reason to write the book, because it seems to me that really so little has changed.
It is going to